I've been following coastal erosion for a long time because I did some videos for the Department of Education a while back, presented by Alex Brindley, actually. And the coastal erosion is quite serious. The last government report, and you say we're getting this one in a few days' time, which was done on coastal erosion in about 2000, 2001. I hate to startle anyone in Kirkmichael listening to it, but it did predict that all the housing from the sea to the central road in Kirkmichael, which is, several thousand houses, will have gone in 130 years' time. And I'm actually doing an updated video on this, which will be on a website in the next few months. The permission to give the building for Brew Willan, which is the new housing estate that went up there a few years ago, in the face of that prediction and in the face of all other people saying, for heaven's sake, don't build here, was extraordinary. It's now called the last time buyers housing, the King Canute estate, and you can see the cliffs eroding at the bottom.
Is
on a
there
rough day.
any mitigation then? Are they sticking concrete blocks? Because there was a plan at one time to do something about it, wasn't there?
I do gather that there are some people thinking about that, but it's vastly expensive. And bizarrely, at Glenwillan there, where the fish farm is, they have put some of these great granite blocks down, but they have left a gap between two headlands, so the incoming tide from the west is eddying around and speeding up the erosion of the fish farm. And this is basic knowledge from any geographer. Why they've done it, I don't know, but much worse than that is on the east coast, just below the Point of Ayre. In 1996, I remember it well, July, every landfill site on the Isle of Man was full, literally. They'd all been filled up. The incinerator was years behind planning. And Terry Groves in that Tynwald had to go to Tynwald as Minister for the Environment and say, I need £1 million to put our rubbish into this new landfill site. And he said, this was the last sitting before the general election. You do not want to be going out there campaigning through the summer if you haven't got a solution to the island's rubbish. The appeals inspector had said, effectively, and I paraphrase, it's the stupidest application I've ever heard, but I'm going to have to say yes because you've got nowhere else to put this rubbish. And so they've now dug this massive pit, Wright's Pit East, which is now less than 50 metres from the sea, which is eroding the cliff on a daily basis. So at some point in the not too distant future, and I've been filming it from helicopters and drones and stuff and measuring all of this, tens of thousands of tons of rubbish are going to start coming out onto the beach. Beach buddies will be needed more than ever.
It's 2020 now then, Charles. What would be your estimate then?
Well, in a question in Tynwald a couple of years ago, the minister stood up and said it was all right for 100 years. And I met, quite coincidentally, a couple of days later, a workman who had given that estimate to the minister, and he told me that the rubbish is a further 50 metres inside the fence which delineates the old site. And I'm afraid he is completely wrong because I've got the aerial photographs to show it. His memory went back 20 years when he put the rubbish there driving a digger. So that information is seriously flawed, and I really think someone needs to look into it. It's not going to be in the next 10 or 15 years. It might be 30 years, but what a legacy to leave a future generation. Someone is going to have to dig all of that up and truck it all the way back down to the incinerator. I think that's the only solution.
Are those photos available, Charles?
Well, I've got them, yes. I shall be putting them up in my little documentary.
You will? And when's the documentary coming out?
When I get round to it. Sometime later in the year.
So Wright's Pit East is...
It needs looking at,
It has to be looked at. The pen portrait of all this is basically Mackled Head round the south of the Isle of Man to south of Peel is all limestone. Am I right? And the rest is sandstone.
Limestone and slate and a little bit of granite. That's solid rock.
So everything. So from north of Peel round to Mackled is in danger, basically.
It is. It's an 18-mile beach. It's a fantastic thing, but it's all sand and gravel, and the sea is eating away. I go every few months to Carlin Mill there, where the previous owner put those great concrete things to survive his garden. You walk north of there, and the sandcliffs are changing every day. Ballateer, the old farmhouse, is now teetering on the edge, and I think this year it's been abandoned. It will fall onto the beach.
Public policy is basically to let nature take its course.
Well, it has to be, I'm afraid, because how could you possibly build a wall 18 miles long all the way around the
And
North
that's what
End?
it would need.
It would need something like that.
Yeah.
It would need something like that.